Hi everyone! I'm finally making a video on something that I've been wanting to create since I got an Android tablet. There's a lot of great selection of free drawing apps this year for both Apple and Android devices, and now I want to talk about it. Something you need to note is that I've chosen free apps based on features that I specifically look for when exploring drawing apps. So I have a list right here that I'll check off as I go through each one and see if they cover most, if not all of it. Because I already have a list of features I'm looking for, I'm not going to be tackling all free drawing apps because I've already checked them and they don't have a lot of the features in the list. Before we start, I'll talk about the list of features first using the paid drawing app that I use for work the most, which is Procreate. First up in the essentials is layers and groups. It's the ability to organize and move layers around simultaneously with ease, whether they're together in a group or folder or individually. Next is clipping mask, wherein you can stack layers on top of a main layer so you can draw inside without drawing on just one single layer. Next is blending mode that I use a lot for shadows, lighting, and overlay effects. Now my personal favorite, brushes. I love a good brush selection as well as the ability to customize them, and of course let's not forget stabilization for support, which is great for someone like me that loves line art. Now Liquify, in my opinion, is probably the most powerful feature since it helps fix things even after you've fully rendered your art. Now for the final feature in my essentials list, color adjustment. Just like Liquify, it's a feature for final touches to change mood, ambience, or tone of your piece, which includes hue saturation, color balance, curves, so it's a really powerful and I believe necessary feature in digital art. So for my optional features, this would include guides and symmetry, which is great support like for grids and perspective and patterns, so yeah, it'll be fun to have it. As for shapes, I don't use this much as I do prefer drawing them by hand, but it can be handy to have when making panels for manga or comics. Next is the reference or navigation window. I just like using this because it helps me lessen my zooming in and out while drawing. And finally, an animation tool. It's a cool addition for some fun frame-by-frame GIF animations, but yeah, that's about it. Now that we've covered that, let's get started. And we're starting with the most recommended free app, Sketchbook. I've actually used this app before, mostly for light sketching because this one has the least amount of features available on my list. For the layers, you can have quite a lot of it, but the grouping of layer feature is apparently on the premium version, as well as the masking features. As you can see, there's no clipping mask feature, but there are blend modes as well as a good selection of brushes with smoothing or stabilization feature, and of course, color adjustments. From what I can see, the guides and symmetry features are really powerful here. There are so many options, so many fun things that you can play around with those features, so it's really great. Going back to this app, it really reminded me how powerful it's become as compared to the first time I used it, and it's a really great free drawing app. Now I've basically checked off all the tools and features that the free version has, and so far it's pretty great. Like, it has a lot of my essentials and a little bit of the optional features. And as for me drawing on this right now, I actually really had fun. I used the textured pencil brush because it's really great for sketching purposes and some casual drawing experience. But for final illustration, at least for me, I really need the other features. So in terms of sketching and playing around with it, it's a definitely great drawing app. I definitely recommend to have it at the very least in your list of drawing apps in your tablets. Oh, also as a challenge while doing this, I actually decided to draw a character and do multiple expressions on each app so that I can compare and have that experience of using them. Because by the end of the video, I want to make a ranking of my top favorite to my least favorite free drawing app. As for the drawing experience, everything here has been easy except for the lack of clipping mask. Like, I really need that. For my final verdict, it's definitely worth the $1.99 USD to unlock all the features in Sketchbook. Now, it's time for iArtbook. I'm pretty new with iArtbook here. I've only ever drawn on it once as a test, and now I'm actually still figuring out its features, but so far I'm just going through the list, and as you can all see, there's no grouping. But it has clipping masks, which I love and I can live with. Now we're just going through the list, and there's blend modes. Actually, all of the apps here have blend modes, which I think has already become a standard, which is great. I love the brush selection on this app because not only does it have variety, but it also has this customization at the top right corner that you can actually all edit according to what settings you need as well as what color, which is great for efficient work. Then I found Liquify and saw this. You can unlock the pro features just by watching the ads, which by the way is definitely worth it if it's gonna get you all those great features. This app actually has all the essentials that I want, but the optional, it only lacks one thing, which is the guides and symmetry, which I'm okay with. As for the drawing experience, it's actually really good and efficient to work on this, but the only concern that I have is what of grouping. So basically that's all my issue with it. As for the drawing experience, I actually enjoyed it a lot. I got quite comfortable with it pretty fast than I expected, so as you can see here, I'm just showing you where I'm finding the features as I tick them off one by one on the list. In order for me to have a good comparison of the experience of drawing with the apps, I actually go with the same process and steps as I draw them so that I can compare my user experience drawing on each app. Now that we're done with that, let's go to the next app, which is Adobe Fresco. Before I get started on this one, I know the issue with Adobe, and the truth is I hate it, but I have to put here the good free apps, and this just happens to be one of them. As far as Fresco goes, the drawing experience is really great. The best feature that I can say about it is the watercolor mechanics feature, which gives you a really great effect when it comes to blending or mixing of colors as well as the textures. Something you should take note of, and something that I can't really test for myself, is how it's gonna work on iPad models that have lower specs than the one that I'm using, which is a 16GB RAM M1 iPad. So in terms of the watercolor effect, I'm not sure if it might get laggy, so I think it would be good if you're able to test it out first on like display models if it's available. One thing I have to say about Fresco is that once you explore the apps and its features, it's actually rather easy to get comfortable with it, and which makes it a very good drawing experience, especially when you're just trying it out for the first time. It really gets you into, I guess, a rhythm, as I would call it. And so right now, I'm just ticking the boxes on the features in the list, and to make things short, the only thing it really doesn't have is the reference or preview window, which in my opinion is like the least important feature that I'm looking for. The only thing I really don't like about Fresco is the fact that it's only available on the iPad. Like, Android is capable enough to be able to handle this system, so I just think it's a waste that it's not. One last thing, the animation tool actually has a lot of effects and path animations, which would really be fun to use because it's not just a frame-by-frame animation. One last app that I'll be using the iPad before we move to an Android device is Ibis Paint. As of this recording, out of all the free drawing apps here, Ibis Paint is actually the one that I use the most. And it all started with the ability to be able to unlock all the brushes just by watching the ads. This also means that all of the tools and features that I want in an app is basically on this one, except for the animation tool, which you'll only be able to unlock if you subscribe to their subscription premiere version, which I personally don't use since I don't really do frame-by-frame animation that much. I guess out of all the tools, the one that I will highlight the most is the brush options and customization, which I love doing personally when it comes to different drawing apps. And another thing is the ability to make manga panels. Personally, I'm not a manga artist, but having them when you need it is really nice and handy. Oh, one thing that I have to say when it comes to Ibis Paint, the interface. There's something about it that is rather easier to identify, at least when it comes to the icons and stuff, because some icons like in Fresco was really hard to interpret like what it's for, unlike here on Ibis Paint wherein it's quite familiar since it's already a common symbol used in multiple drawing programs. So yeah, I just realized that, especially since I just came from drawing after in Fresco. So it's a very interesting thing to see that in terms of the icons and familiarity, that Ibis Paint is definitely way easier to navigate and find stuff with as compared to Fresco's. And now we're jumping to Android tablet, and this one we're gonna start off with Medibang Paint. As far as Medibang is concerned, I have a really good memory with Medibang because this is actually the app wherein I drew all my coloring book page freelance work before, as well as lettering for planner covers, etc. And it's actually because of the brush selection as well as its just the correction, or rather the stabilization, that really helped me write really well. So here are some examples of those works. I remember using it on my iPad first, and then when I got on Android, I tried it there as well, which is also a great experience. And then I find out that it has a PC and Mac version, which, by the way, the Mac version, I just used the free version, and it's a really great free drawing desktop program. So I really encourage that you guys try it out as well. If there's one thing that I wish Medibang Paint improved more, it would probably be the brush customization. Like right now, it only has the basics and it's good, but I just hope that there was more ability to tweak the brushes and its pressure sensitivity, the weight you put on it, the opacity, the speed as well. Quite like Ibis Paint, because Ibis Paint actually also has an extensive amount of customization for their brushes. So I guess that's one thing that I hope improves in Medibang Paint's future updates. Oh, this fill brush that I'm using right now to color the hair, it's one of my favorite features in Medibang Paint. I'm not sure if other apps have this. It's actually pretty hard to find. It sort of acts like a lasso fill, but instead of a lasso, it's more of in brush form. So it's really fun to fill in the color, especially with color blocking. In case you're wondering what brushes I'm using while drawing, you can just pause and look at the brush that I've currently selected. I didn't edit any of the brushes or customize them. I'm using them as is. The only thing I adjusted was the stabilization. I didn't get to show it in my process, but there's actually a symmetry tool that's in the form of a brush, which is why I checked it off the list. Now I've gone through the list, and the only features it doesn't have is liquify, reference or preview window, and animation tool. As for the preview window, it's actually available on the desktop version. Now we're jumping into HiPaint. This one I was actually pretty interested to find out more on how it'll feel like drawing on this, because I've heard a lot of people say that this is the one that resembles the Procreate experience the most. And so far, trying the pen gestures similar to Procreate, I gotta admit, it is really similar, which is really nice. I'm happy. Oh, and another great feature, unlock by watching an ad. This is great. I love it. I know that other people find this, like not really appealing, but what's a few seconds, right? I think it's worth it, especially if you get to use the app at its full capacity, even as a trial before you purchase it fully. So it's a really helpful way for you to make that decision before swiping your card. The one thing that stood out to me the most when I was drawing in HiPaint is how comfortable I immediately got. It was so familiar, the gestures, the tools, all those things. it really felt easy. It felt easy to work on it. And I think what I guess gives it a bit more of a level up with Procreate is how the tools are already out there, the icons easy to select, easy to find, because as we all know, in Procreate it has a lot of its tools hidden that you need to look for. So that's one of the things that I have to say is better in HiPaint. Now, as you continue watching me draw for fun, spoiler alert, this is actually the first drawing app on my list that has every single feature that I want in an app. So yes, I love HiPaint, and it's definitely gonna be one of my go-to drawing apps on Android. If there's one issue I feel like people are gonna have with it, is the fact that the unlock of and watching of ads is only for 2 hours, so you're gonna have to keep watching ads every 2 hours to keep using the app at its full capacity. And I'm not sure if you're gonna love subscribing to it because it's in subscription format. So yeah, it's something to think about. Now I'm done checking everything off the list, which is great. It's the first app wherein everything is checked, and now we're moving to the final app, which is Krita. Krita. My first impression of Krita was pain, because I first got introduced to it using my Tab S6 Lite, which, as some of you may not know, it's a pretty smaller tablet as compared to the one I'm using here. So the interface, which is very desktop-like, overwhelmed me like crazy. I experienced heavy amounts of lagging, and the app froze on me. And now that I think about it, it's not really surprising that it would, because if it is as powerful as its desktop counterpart, then the Tab S6 Lite would definitely have difficulty running this kind of app. The first impression experience trying this app is similar to how you'd feel when you explore Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop, because of its very extensive amount of features and the interface as well. It's very desktop-like, but I have to admit, using it now on the Tab S9 gave me a change of heart, because I loved it. I loved how it feels now drawing with it on a very big screen such as the S9 Ultra, since I'm using the S9 Ultra here, which is 14.9 inch, I think. So it's perfect. It's perfect for its kind of interface, the power that it needs to run fluidly. So this was a really great app. It reminds me of Clip Studio Paint, but free version, you know? But as a comparison between the other free drawing apps that I've used so far, this is the one that is gonna take probably the most time to get used to, because the tools and features can really be overwhelming at first glance. So I would really encourage not really exploring this without any sort of manual. I suggest that you just watch tutorials so that you can get right onto it with less frustration. And we're done! So far, between all the free apps, it seems that Krita and HiPaint are the ones that have all the list of the features that I want a drawing app to have. Before I get to my final ranking, here is the checklist of each app for a side-by-side comparison. Okay, here's my ranking of the 7 drawing apps. At the bottom at 7 is Sketchbook, just because it has the least amount of features that I'm looking for in my list. On 6th place is Medibang Paint, because just like Sketchbook, it has 3 features that are missing that I would prefer to have. And on 5th is iArtbook. The only thing really missing from this one is the grouping of layers, which you can only get if you unlock or buy the app. And it may seem like a small thing, but for someone like me that works with a lot of layers most of the time, organizing my layers into folders is definitely essential. Fourth is Fresco, because I don't like that it's only available on the iPad. If it was available for Android users as well, this would definitely be a bit more up in my ranking. Third is Ibis Paint. To be honest, this is more based off of the tablet that I'm using. So for smaller tablets, I would definitely put this on second. But since I'm using bigger screen tablets such as 12-inch and 14-inch, this goes third because the second one is really great to work with on bigger screens. If that doesn't give it away, then I don't know what will. The second place is Krita, which is a very full-fledged desktop-like drawing app that I would compare to CSP, and working on it with bigger screen tablets elevates the experience. So, second place it is. And for first place, drum roll please. Okay, please don't bash me. This is more of a comfortability ranking for me, and the one that I was most comfortable working on was HiPaint. I mean, it's not really that surprising considering it has the most Procreate-like experience, which is currently my main drawing app. And that's it. Thank you for reaching this far. I hope this video helped inform you in any way. I hope that you test them out as well so that you find the best one that suits your needs, because let's face it, all of us have different drawing tool preferences as well as drawing styles. So it's really all about finding the drawing tool that would make us want to keep making art. So go out there and let's make art.